Making headlines this hour, Minister of Finance Ahmed Munawar embarks on an official visit to Wawa Atoll. Maldives Meteorological Service says that automatic weather stations will be installed in 75 islands next year. And Israel's Education Minister takes aim at US Secretary of State Kerry as the latter gives a speech on Arab-Israeli relations.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News in English on TVM with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. And now the news in detail. Minister of Finance Ahmed Munawar embarks on an official visit to Wawa Atoll. On a special request from President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom, Minister Munawar visited the islands of Fulidu, Felidu and Tinadu in Wawa Atoll. In his visit, the Finance Minister met with the island councils, associations and non-government organizations in the islands. During the meetings, the Minister inquired about the living situation in the islands and the development projects the islands are in immediate need. The Finance Minister is to visit all the islands in Wawa Atoll. Wawa Atoll has the smallest population in the Maldives. Maldives Meteorological Service MMS says the automatic weather stations will be installed in 75 islands next year. The Meteorological Service said that 20 such stations are currently in operation in various islands in Maldives. According to MMS, the automatic weather stations collect and update data every 10 minutes. MMS uses the most advanced technologies to gather data, including the services of 2 satellites. MMS said that they exchange the data with domestic and international airlines and that the weather stations work around the clock to acquire the most accurate information. Maldives Meteorological Service further added that they have noticed a change in the weather pattern of Maldives after analyzing the data of 35 years. Managing Director of Public Service Media PSM, Ibrahim Khalil, says that Divehirajege Adu, the first broadcaster and radio channel in the country, is an important pillar in the development of Maldives. He made the remark in the staff night held to mark the 54th anniversary of Divehirajege Adu. Khalil said that the state radio played an important role in Maldivian society in the past 54 years. Divehirajege Adu began broadcasting in 1962 and since then has been disseminating news, current affairs and general information to raise public awareness. The first transmission of the channel lasted a mere 4 minutes. The Divehirajege Adu, which is a part of PSM, is broadcasting special programs throughout the day. Other TV and radio channels of PSM are also carrying special programs to mark the occasion. In business, we have President of India's opposition Congress party, Rahul Gandhi, poses a series of questions to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who faces opposition over the hardships caused to people since he announced the demonetized higher currency notes.
Gandhi, who has been severe in his criticism of Modi, upped the ante at a press conference in New Delhi after attending the Grand Old Party's 132nd Foundation Day celebrations. He questioned how much black money was unearthed since November 8th and how much the Indian economy suffered because of the demonetization of higher currency notes. He also questioned the amount of people who lost their livelihoods since November 8th. As of December 13th, the Indian banks have taken back 12.44 trillion rupees of high-value currency that the government abruptly abolished last month. That represents about 80% of 15.44 trillion rupees in 500 and 1000 rupee notes that were circulating before Modi abolished them on November 8th in a surprise move targeting counterfeiters and people holding undeclared wealth. Analysts had estimated that only about 13 trillion of those abolished notes would be deposited at banks because people with undeclared cash would be wary of attracting the scrutiny of tax authorities. Taking a dive at Modi, Gandhi demanded the Prime Minister must come clean regarding the people who had managed to park their ill-gotten money in banks above the permissible limits. Gandhi and several other opposition parties have stepped up their takes on Modi as banks and automated teller machines still struggle to dispense cash to customers. The winter session of Parliament was a washout as the combined opposition did not let the government transact any business. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party brushed aside Gandhi's allegations and said he was speaking for the economically affluent class. Modi's administration has billed the demonetization drive a surgical strike on black money, which has sucked out 86% of cash in circulation and pushed Asia's third largest economy to the brink of a liquidity crisis.
A video uploaded by IS-affiliated Ahmad news agency purports to show dead bodies after an airstrike on a hospital by the US-led coalition near the northern Iraqi city of Mosul. The US military said that the airstrike hit a van in a hospital compound parking lot and could have killed civilians. It said a van carrying IS fighters was targeted and hit in the airstrike. The Ahmad video shows widespread damage to the hospital with dead bodies lying on the floor spattered with blood. An identified man in the video said 7 people were killed in the strike. It was not possible to verify his statement. Iraqi forces backed by the US have retaken after a quarter of Mosul city from IS since launching an offensive against the militants in mid-October. Israel's education minister takes aim at U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry as the latter gives a speech on Arab-Israeli relations.
Israeli Education Minister and Jewish Home Party head Naftali Bennett sent a message to Secretary of State John Kerry just before the latter's policy speech on Arab-Israeli conflict on Wednesday.
Secretary Kerry, a few days ago, the United Nations Security Council voted for a shameful resolution, a resolution that essentially says that Jerusalem is occupied territory. Well, Jerusalem was the Jewish capital 3,000 years ago. It's in the Bible. Just open it up. No UN resolution and no speech can change the fact that Jerusalem has always been and will always be the Jewish eternal capital.
Israel approved construction of a multi-story building for settlers in Annex East Jerusalem on Wednesday, an NGO said, after postponing authorization of hundreds of other homes ahead of a speech on the Middle East by the U.S. Secretary of State. The Obama administration provoked the Israeli government's fury on Friday by failing to block the passage of an anti-settlement resolution in the UN Security Council. Secretary of State John Kerry was to give further voice to international opposition to settlements in an address at 1600 GMT that a State Department official said would lay out his vision for ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hours before Kerry's speech, a Jerusalem Municipal Committee pulled back from approving 492 new homes for Israelis in East Jerusalem, an area that Israel captured along with the West Bank in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. The chairman of the committee and one of its members said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had asked for the vote to be delayed, concerned approval for those projects would add ammunition to Kerry's expected anti-settlement arguments. A spokesman for the Israeli leader declined to make immediate comment. The panels meet regularly and the building projects that were removed from the agenda on Wednesday could come up for vote in the future. IRMM, a group which opposes Israeli settlement in occupied territory where Palestinians seeks to establish a state, said the committee nonetheless permitted construction of a 4-story building for settlers in Silvan, a Palestinian neighborhood where they have been expanding their enclave.
The impact is corrosive, both to the Palestinian community, the people living in it, the fabric of the community, all of the Palestinian neighborhoods around the historic basin, and also imperils a two-state solution by consolidating Israeli control of the Old City and historic basin in lieu of and in advance of any kind of negotiations that might take place in the future.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that he will ask President Putin to expel 35 U.S. diplomats and ban U.S. diplomatic staff from using a data and a warehouse in Moscow in retaliation to Washington's sanctions. Lavrov said in a video posted on the ministry's website that the U.S. administration, without presenting any evidence or proof, announced the new wave of sanctions against the Russian Federation. He further added that Russia cannot leave such steps unanswered. Reciprocity is the law of diplomacy and international affairs, and that the Russian Foreign Ministry, together with other agencies, proposed the President of the Russian Federation to declare 31 staff members of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow and 4 diplomats of the U.S. Consulate General in St. Petersburg. President Barack Obama ordered the expulsion of 35 Russian suspected spies and imposed sanctions on 2 Russian intelligence agencies over their involvement in hacking U.S. political groups in the 2016 presidential election. Lavrov said that allegations that Russia interfered in U.S. elections are baseless. Data shows that the political scandal in South Korea has not only brought about a negative impact on the politics and society, but also dampened the consumer confidence. The latest data released by the Central Bank of South Korea showed that the consumer confidence index in November dropped to 6.1 to 95.8 month-on-month, the lowest since the 2008 financial crisis. Protest rallies that followed one after another have caused traffic jams around the market near the Gwanghwamun Square or Seoul City Hall, and many vendors of the market shut their stores and joined the rallies. The worsening scandal is heating up the mood of hedging. Statistics show that in November alone, more than $1.4 billion fled the main board market, and the comprehensive index of the stock market dropped by 3.1%. In the same period, however, the stock markets of China, Japan, and United States and other major stock market all rose. Besides, the 9 South Korean conglomerates, including Samsung, SK Holdings and CJ Group, have been subject to the widening probe. Although all the leaders of the companies deny power for money allegations, overseas capital began to shun them. Foreign investors are cutting down on their holdings of Samsung, SK and CJ by 0.07%, 0.36% and 0.55% respectively in a month. The market value of the 9 companies accounted for almost 60% of the country's main board stock market. Indians lined up outside banks across the country on Friday, the last day for them to deposit their savings or see them become worthless after large denomination notes were scrapped in a bid to fight corruption.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi last month said 500,000 banknotes worth a combined $256 billion and 86% of cash in circulation would cease to be legal tender after December 30th, disrupting the lives of hundreds of millions. However, India's junior finance minister Santosh Gangwar said the results will start showing soon. He said the people have cooperated fully and accepted any inconvenience. Modi had said his government would end the chaos and restore normality in 50 days. But analysts said the impact would last at least 6 more months, with concerns about lower economic growth, job losses and a fall in demand for goods. Jobs have been hit post the demonetization move, especially in the informal sector where most poor people work. The informal sector accounts for 20% of gross domestic product and more than 85% of total employment. A resident of Jaipur city in northwestern Rajasthan state, Sher Singh said, results notwithstanding, Indians were facing many problems.
We are finding difficult in getting notes. We are getting only 2,000 notes, but getting change is a problem now.
Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said the critical part of the demonetization exercise was over and remonetization had substantially advanced. In an interview to India Today magazine, Modi said the demonetization decision would give the economy a boost and provide long-term benefits, including forcing the vast shadow economy into the open. He has said the demonetization action was needed to fight corruption and cut off financing for attacks by militants who target India. The move to demonetize the large bills is designed to bring billions of dollars worth of cash in unaccounted wealth into the mainstream economy, as well as dent the finances of militants who target India and suspected of using fake 500 rupee notes to fund operations.
India's remote northeastern province of Arunachal Pradesh slips into political uncertainty after the state chief was unceremoniously suspended along with 6 other legislators by their own party.
In a terse statement, the state's ruling People's Party of Arunachal PPA said Chief Minister Pema Khandu and others were suspended from the party for their alleged anti-party activities.
We are just not happy with the leadership of Pema Khandu. He has not been able to, take the party into confidence whenever any policy decision has to be taken. The mere sudden, consultation has to be there, but then there has been completely missing. And then I must admit that there has been completely, communication gap between the organization, party organization, and the governance.
This state, which shares borders with China, has lurched from one crisis to another since last December, when dissidents of the then-ruling Congress party revolted against Chief Minister Nabam Tuki, leading to opposition of federal rule. However, India's apex government reinstated Tuki's government 7 months later. But his government lasted barely 4 days, as he could not prove majority on the floor of the legislature. 42 dissident legislatures of Congress led by Khandu then merged with the PPA and formed the government with support from India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. The BJP, which has 12 legislatures, said it would support Khandu if he was asked to prove majority.
This is an internal matter of PPA, but we are having alliance with PPA. We are under NEDA. Our Chief Minister is Pema Khandu. So, at this juncture, I would like to appeal the PPA that for the development of the state, for the security of the state, there should not be any such clash amongst the PPA legislature.
India's opposition Congress party, smarting under losing the government in the frontier state, blamed BJP for the crisis. The state has 60 members in the legislature, with the 3 seats lying vacant.
World number 2 tennis player Serena Williams arrives in Auckland alongside her new fiancé before competing in the ASB Classic next week. Williams announced her engagement to Alexis Ohanian, a co-founder of the social media company Reddit, on the platform. The New York-born Ohanian confirmed the news on his Facebook page, writing, "She said yes." On arrival in Auckland, sister Venus Williams said the news of the engagement was awesome. Williams is seen as the best player of her generation. She has won 22 Grand Slam singles titles, the same as German Steffi Graf and trailing only Australian Margaret Court. However, she has never before competed in New Zealand. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is set to remain at the top spot in the box office for a 3rd week in a row, beating out recent box office releases. The new Star Wars saga has already grossed $653 million at the worldwide box office, Sing, an animated story about a singing competition, is expected to take the 2nd box office spot, adding that to its global take of $162 million. There are no new wide releases for the last weekend of 2016. And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant night ahead.